Alright, it's come to my attention that DC made a comment here on a podcast with the Chicken Nugget and Kamaru Usman. Now, you might be wondering why DC's catching flack. Basically, in this interview, I would play the clip. I'm a little worried that the Nugget might come for me or Kamaru might come for me, in terms of copyright. Maybe I'm using too much of their footage. I'm a little new to this YouTube game, but regardless, basically what happened, and if you don't believe me, you can just type in Kamaru Usman DC on Twitter or something, and it'll be like the first clip. But regardless, basically Kamaru Usman compares Jon Jones to Michael Jordan, and he wonders why Daniel Cormier still does not like Jon Jones. And Daniel Cormier then basically calls out the bias, or not bias, but calls out this okay, now that I'm thinking about that, was definitely Freudian slip, alright? It's not biased, alright? But he called out Kamaru Usman basically because Jon Jones is nowhere near the level of Michael Jordan in terms of, we're talking like comparing basketball to MMA here. This is definitely a apples to oranges comparison. Can't really compare the two. But you can't call Jon Jones the Michael Jordan of MMA. I mean, that's just a fact, alright? Not only, you could probably, I think Kamaru also said like a LeBron James, or it was brought up that like you couldn't compare him to a Michael Jordan, LeBron James sort of thing. But DC refuted this, and he refuted it justly. I didn't see Michael Jordan only play once in 5 years. Just saying. But now, the real comparison here is saying that Jon Jones is pound for pound number. That's basically like the implication here. He's one of the best to ever do it in the sport. And while there's a fair argument that he's one of the best to do it in the sport, we shouldn't regard Jon Jones on a pedestal. And the reason why is not only do we not simp like Dana White, but the other reason is because Jon Jones is a terrible person, in terms of outside the octagon. Now, if you want to talk about inside the octagon, he's a complete cheater, alright? Not only are we talking eye pokes, not like the stance where your fucking fingers are out. Maybe that's why he hasn't fought in 5 years. Every fighter since has had their fingers out. Daniel Zellhuber, they're watching it, watch your fingers, okay. Jon Jones don't get that treatment, oblique kicks, everything like that, things that are either illegal or should be illegal. He does them all, alright, let's just say that. Obviously, it's that Rampage Jackson clip that kind of solidifies that, but moving on. Yeah, in this interview, basically, there's a whole section here. I'm not gonna play the clip. Again, a little worried that I might get copyrighted from the Nugget, but, regardless, take my word for it. This is basically Daniel Cormier fighting back, and I'm defending Daniel Cormier, alright? I don't even rate Daniel Cormier that higher. A lot of people rate Daniel Cormier as one of the best to ever do it. I don't even rate him top 3 heavyweights. I think he's maybe top 5. He might be edging top 5, my personal opinion. I'd have to think more in depth about it, but at the moment, I don't consider Daniel Cormier to be all that good. Moving on, though, to the next reason why I'm defending DC here. So, in the conversation of Jon Jones, you kind of can't speak about Jon Jones without mentioning the fact that he's a cheater. And the reason why is because, we're not talking about the wife thing. That's only when he's out at gay bars, just saying. But I'm more or less referring to the cheating inside the cage, We got a lot of PED suspensions on his record here. So for all those people saying, oh, well, he's only been suspended 1 time, he's actually been, at least here it says he's been suspended twice, but I think he's tested positive 3 times. Could be 4, but I'm from recollection, it's 3. So I'll give him benefit of the doubt, even though I shouldn't. But basically, he is a PED cheat, he tested positive for that drug and this drug. I can't pronounce these words, but he tested positive for both these substances in his system, I think it was a blood test or whatever. But regardless, basically, there's a lot of evidence to suggest that he's a PED cheat, literally because he's been caught suspended, or he's been caught twice, at least by the UFC. But on top of that, there's also a lot of, certain allegations you can make because his testosterone levels at some point were that of a literally lower testosterone than the average female, which for a man is physically impossible. Now, if you're confused on why that is like an indicator that he's cheating, maybe his testosterone is just low. At the level of his testosterone, he's not able to build muscle. That's why women can't really build that much amount of muscle, and why a lot of bodybuilder women take testosterone and other things that produce testosterone. It's because that helps with muscle growth. Now, if you're taking an excess amount of testosterone, that is instantly an indicator that you're taking performance-enhancing drugs. That's obvious. We all know that. But on top of that, the way you can kind of gauge this as having low T is an indicator of cheating, you physically can't pretty much be a man, and I know we're in a different day and age here, but you can't be a man with no testosterone like what Jon Jones had for that testosterone test. And the implication is that he either IV bag, either some other form of getting testosterone out of his system, like taking a drug or something that does it. He was definitely taking testosterone suppressors or something, so his testosterone wouldn't fucking spike up when they're testing him for these drugs. Or he probably took drugs to suppress the other performance enhancing drugs in his system. Now, that's just that's just like a small area of cheating we're looking under. Not only is he an actual PED cheat, and that's why the overturned loss happened with Daniel Cormier. So I think it's completely justified if Daniel Cormier is like, yeah, you can't rate Jon Jones as one of the best fighters of all time because he's literally a cheater, And he was only caught in 2016, 2017. Who fucking knows if he's been taking performance-enhancing drugs since fucking 2010, since he started training. You don't know these things, and the reason why it's important to, when someone gets caught cheating, an unfortunate member that gets brought up a lot, TJ Dillashaw, once you're caught cheating, every single win you have is questionable. But for Jon Jones, a lot of people just want to turn their brain off and pretend that, nah, maybe he cheated one time, but, that's only because of pictograms, even though the, specific thing that set off the chart wasn't pictograms. That was one minuscule thing about it. It was a specific type of chemical that was in his system. But moving on from that, Joe Rogan. Moving on from that, though, so regardless, if you want to say Jon Jones is one of the best to ever do it, you would just be wrong, because if we're including drug use, sure, by that logic, Brock Lesnar, I don't think, did he become a champ? I can't even fucking remember. Brock Lesnar basically had 4 fights in the UFC, and he had the highest ranking fights of any fighter with 4 fights in the UFC. By that logic, yeah, Brock Lesnar's fucking, amazing as well. By that logic, if we're including cheaters here. But, and TJ Dillashaw, he's up there on the bantamweight GOAT list as well. He'd probably be 2, maybe 3, if we're including PED uses, of course. There's an argument for number 1, alright? But that obviously implies you're including cheaters, This is cheating. That needs to be said. So I'm defending Daniel Cormier. Makes a lot of sense why he's not gonna take this. Oh my god, Jon Jones is one of the best to ever do it. Yeah, if you're including cheaters, you know what I mean? It's like if you're holding a competition of bodybuilding, and then all of a sudden an IFBB pro walks up and he's bigger, he's 5 times bigger than everyone else on stage. Well, no shit. That's kind of how PEDs work, That's kind of how, being on juice works, You're just gonna perform better than everyone else at the sport you're given if you're taking drugs that literally enhance the physical capabilities in the sport you're doing. So, yeah, dead-ass cheating. Moving on to the next evidence. So another thing that I think needs to be mentioned, and that no one fucking talks about for some reason when we talk about Jon Jones, He lost to Dominic Reyes. Now, I know on his record it says a win. We've seen it before, shitty scorecards. I made a whole video on it. You know, check out my channel if you want to see that video on how to fix judging. But we've seen shitty scorecards before. That's not news. And this is by far one of the worst scorecards ever given, especially at the highest level in a championship level fight. Now, if you look at the strikes, in 3 of the rounds, Dominic Reyes outlanded, and the control time and takedowns were not there, alright? They were very minuscule. So, you at least have to give Dominic Reyes 3 rounds, alright? And Jon Jones didn't really do much with his takedown. You know, basically, my point is that in Dominic Reyes' fight, worst case scenario, you have to give him 3 rounds. Now, where it gets a little muddy is when we talk about round 4 and 5. I would argue Dominic Reyes did much more damage, and he was applying much more pressure in these rounds. So I would give Dominic Reyes probably a 49-47. Is that how it works? Or 49-48? I can't fucking remember. I think it's 49-47. Yeah, my brain's, you know, it's getting late right now. But regardless, I would give him 4 of the 5 rounds if you were just watching the fight. Even casually, you know, if we're talking damage, strikes, everything. Again, Jon Jones had 2 fucking takedowns and a minute of control time. Wow. Congratulations, you did fuck all. Other than that, he got outlanded, he was outdamaged, and Dominic Reyes looked fucking good. And Dominic Reyes went on a 3-fight loss streak, you know? So, how good is Dominic Reyes really? Oh, I think it's right here. Wait, no, what the fuck is... Like, yeah, you're gonna give 4 rounds to Jon Jones? Are you smoking the good stuff? You know what I mean? Like, 4 rounds to Jon Jones is absolutely insane. That ref should have been fired that night. I think even Dana White, the Glazer himself, said Dominic Reyes at the press conference, said he won. Not saying Dana White's opinion matters, but even he will admit to you, yeah, Jon Jones lost that fight. And he's the #1 Jon Jones fan. Moving on to the next set of evidence on why I'm defending Daniel Cormier and why Jon Jones is not one of the GOATs of the sport. We have his record. Now, one of the reasons why you would give Jon Jones, like, a lot of credit for being one of the GOATs of the sport, if we're including cheating, is because of his record. It's a long, long line of title defenses. Congratulations. You're second to Demetrius Johnson. If we're talking consecutive title wins. However, a lot of these wins, all of these wins are against fighters older than him, alright? So he's got that sort of age advantage, that age statistic, which is like a 70%, whatever. But on top of that, you know, Dominic Reyes, he lost, and Ciryl Gane is an absolute bum when it comes to ground game. Doesn't know what a takedown is, he doesn't know how to wrestle, and he's never even heard of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So, obviously, he's going to get submitted by someone who does grappling for a living. That's how that works. You know, but regardless, I even won money on this fight because I bet on Jon Jones. That was back when I was betting. So I am biased towards Jon Jones. You know, I'm giving him more credit than probably most Jon Jones haters would, you know? But if we look at his record, the reason why you can't call him the Michael Jordan is because his last good win was Ciryl Gane, and that means he averages 1 win in the last 5 years. I don't know any GOAT of any sport that participates in 1 match every 5 years. Just name one of them. I know Ronaldo's not fucking doing that. I know Messi's not fucking doing that. I know MJ's not doing that. I know LeBron's not doing that. Fuck. I know, that football Pat Mahomes, Patrick Mahomes, I think that's it. I know he's not fucking participating 1 game in every 5 years. And you can make excuses like injury, blah, blah, blah. Regardless, it's still there. 5 years, 1 activity, and you beat someone who, you technically have 1 loss, and you have 1 win against someone who's never grappled a day in their life. Francis Ngannou out-wrestled him with 1 leg. Need I say more? Okay. So, regardless, yeah, Jon Jones has 1 win in 5 years. I think it's pretty, like, set in stone why people don't fucking rate Jon Jones in terms of pound for pound GOAT list right now. If we're talking like GOAT list overall in the entire sport, including cheaters, you could maybe count him as number one. Unfortunately, though, he is a dirty rat cheater, and he's only got 1 win in 5 years. You can't give him higher than fucking where he is right now. Arguably, in my opinion, he should be lower on pound for pound list. But I think it's fair for Daniel Cormier to say that Jon Jones does not deserve to be pound for pound number one. And everything aligning with that. He's not the MJ of the sport, nowhere near. Moving on to things outside of the UFC. Now, what do we have here? Just a quick Google search will actually tell you this. A lot of people want to pretend this never happened, but according to a police report, Jones left Moses, I think that's her name, in term, like, I don't know how to say it properly if it's not Moses, you know, but that's her name. His wife at the time, bloodied after he allegedly assaulted her inside a room at Caesar's Palace with their 3 children present. I don't think I really need to say more here. He left his wife bloodied in a room with his 3 kids present, okay? And we're gonna call this guy the MJ of the sport. MJ is MJ because of how hard he worked, alright? The only hard thing that he fucking works is other men's cocks at a gay bar, alright? That's pretty much all Jon Jones works on, alright? I don't even know if I can say that shit on YouTube, but I'm gonna say it anyways. But yeah, the domestic violence charge was later dropped as part of a plea deal, which, if you don't know, like 99.9% of fucking plea deals are, here's a lot of money and drop the case. That's pretty much what it is. That's like 99.9% of fucking plea deals. And on top of this, there's the report of him hitting a pregnant woman in a car driving off. That's not my GOAT of the sport. I'm not defending that man. And if you want to say, well, inside the sport, he's still good, that doesn't matter. You still need to ridicule these people for outside of the sport. But yeah, outside of that, there's not really much else I can think of to talk about. But these are the main things to hammer down. He's got multiple arrests. He's got multiple fucking, you know, domestic violence cases. He's got multiple hit and runs. You know, he's got multiple PED cheating on his list. You know, he is a terrible human inside the cage and outside the cage. He's a cheater who abuses performance-enhancing drugs. He's an absolute cheater when it comes to using legal moves. Even though eye pokes aren't legal, he gets away with it for some reason. And he's an inactive fighter who hasn't fought in 5 years. And I think it kind of speaks when you don't fight in 5 years what the problem is, you know? I don't think it's there's not enough competition. Tom Aspinall's waiting for you, but it seems like Jon Jones doesn't want the smoke, alright? You know, and we see a lot now that the new generation of fighters are kind of taking over. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to say. I wanted to get my thoughts on this Jon Jones garbage, defend my boy, even though he's not my boy. I don't even really like Daniel Cormier. I think he's funny, but I think that's pretty much it. He's like the MMA version of like Bert Kreischer, in my opinion. Like, he's funny. It's good to have a laugh, but you're not going to take anything he says seriously. But I'll back up Daniel Cormier when it comes to this whole Jon Jones topic. You know, I feel bad for Daniel Cormier for getting all this hate, because Jon Jones is a legit piece of shit human being. He's an absolute terrible person inside the cage, outside the cage. And it needs to be said, no one mentions it when we're bringing up Jon Jones, and we're just all pretending that he's not just an actual cheater, alright? Not just on his wife, alright? So that's all I wanted to say. With all that being said, I want to thank you for making it to the end of this video. And, as always, I hope you have a good day.